Welcome back. We're here to look ahead to Saturday afternoon's Premier League match between West Ham and Everton. Barnes will start with the visitors. Last time out, big winners over Sunderland.
Yeah, incredible game, wasn't it? 6-2 against Sunderland. I don't think many people saw that one, it being such a good game there at Goodison Park. But an important victory, first and foremost, other than the 6 goals, important 3 points. It's their first win in 4 games, slightly iffy form going into the match. So to get that result, really good win. It wasn't the most convincing, it wasn't certainly as convincing as the scoreline would suggest. Sunderland hit the woodwork twice before Everton took the lead, but the way their front players linked up will be really positive for Martinez to take from that match. Kone obviously getting the hat-trick is the big plus, but Lukaku linked up with him really well, got on the score sheet himself, pinged that fantastic cross with the outside of his foot over to Kone for his hat-trick goal. Delafeu looked bright as well down the right-hand side, so a lot of positives to take out from the match, and obviously the 6 goals are the biggest of the lot. Fantastic to score 6 goals in a Premier League game. Okay, Sunderland, their defending was pretty poor for a lot of the goals, and they could have done better, and Sunderland have been poor all season, probably arguably the worst team along with Aston Villa in the league over the first 11 games of the season, but it's still a very big win, and especially the way that they responded for Sunderland to come back to 2-2, and then the way Everton responded to then score 4 goals in 20 minutes. Fantastic spell for them. All in all, just a completely positive result. Martinez called it the perfect display from his side in front of his own fans, which I'm not sure I'll go that far. They still conceded 2 goals, could have conceded more with those 2 hitting the woodwork, like I mentioned earlier, from Sunderland, but certainly it was a very promising display and an important victory after some iffy form.
I think the best thing for them was players like Kone and Delafeu shining, because I thought actually Barkley really didn't have a good game. 6 goals in an Everton team where Barkley's playing quite far forward, and he didn't actually have a direct hand in any of them, no goals or assists. So he was a bit off colour, and their other young, England star John Stones, he was really at fault for Defoe's goal, which was right on the stroke of half time there, and just gave Sunderland that lift they needed to then go and obviously draw back to 2-2. So those 2 players, you'd probably say 2 Everton star players weren't actually at their best in that game. So for them to win 6-2 with those 2 a bit off colour was actually really good for them, and leaves them there 9th place. They're 5 points off the top 4, and I think what they can't do now, we've talked about obviously the difficult fixtures they had in the last 2-3 months. We now know they've got easier games in the next couple of months or so. What they can't do is fall behind. They really need to push on and sort of try and get up towards the Leicesters who are doing really well up there, and try and keep pace with Spurs and Liverpool, because those teams are really going to be pushing now to try and get that, because it looks like there's a top 4 space open with Chelsea so far behind, unless they go on a really good run. So Everton, what they can't do is fall away. They're doing okay in the league and through to the quarterfinals of the League Cup as well, and they got Middlesbrough in the next round, which I know Middlesbrough away. Middlesbrough, they've beaten a lot of Premier League teams in recent years. City last season in the FA Cup, United this season in the League Cup, but it was a decent draw for Everton. You've got to be honest, it's still a Championship side, so if they can beat Everton there, get through to the semi-finals. We know Everton is 20 years now since they last won a trophy, so it's a big thing for them that they are through to the quarterfinals and going okay in the league. I think at the moment things look quite good for Everton.
You mentioned their fixtures easing up. Obviously this one's not the most easy game of the lot, but after this they got Aston Villa at home. Aston Villa can't buy a win at the moment. Yet to see what happens under Remy Gard, the new manager, but they'll be confident of getting the win there. And then Bournemouth and Norwich both away. That's in 3 of their next 4 league games, so they'll be confident of picking up a lot more points. I think Bournemouth and Norwich both away is a key one as well, because they've been decent away from home so far this season. Their only loss on the road so far is against Arsenal, and we know how well they've been playing recently and how well they can play at home as well. Very tough team to beat at home, get anything off at home. So for Everton's only defeat to be against them, 1-2 and drawn 2 of their other 5 away games so far this season. Things are certainly looking good on the road, and as I say, with Bournemouth and Norwich and Aston Villa, 3 of their next 4 league games, all of those languishing towards the wrong end of the table, they'll be confident of carrying on this push up the table up into the top half now in 9th place, which after the tough start they had to the season is pretty good going for them.
Yeah, and I think they should be confident going to Upton Park, because West Ham, we've discussed it enough times this season that they tend to be better on the road than they do at home, and West Ham don't come into this in the best form. Last time out they lost 2-0 against Watford, and that saw their 7-match Premier League unbeaten run come to an end. So a disappointing day for them, because going into that game they had the best away record of anyone in the league, 13 out of 15 points, and for them to lose and not score, very disappointing. The goals they conceded, certainly Bilic will be angry. This first one especially, Andy Carroll, who had a bit of a shocker all game, came back into the starting lineup, didn't really do much up front, and then dilly-dallied on the ball in the box. I think it was Nathan Aké that nicked it. He crossed, and then Cresswell was a bit slow at the back post, and Igalo was one that reacted quickest, managed to stick it in, and he obviously then got the second goal. And then James Collins lost his head at the end. It was a bit of a mad tackle. I know some people said it probably wasn't worthy of the red, but I thought, the way he just kicked out like that was one of those completely unnecessary ones, and you can see exactly in real time it just looked really, it just wasn't it wasn't a genuine tackle, it was more of a kick out at the player, so you can see why he was sent off. So he's obviously now out for this one. But I think one positive for West Ham might be that Diafra Sakho could be back for this game. You know, Andy Carroll, Enner Valencia, both. I know Carroll got the goal against Chelsea, wasn't it? That was a good header from him, but he looked a bit off colour last week. Enner Valencia hasn't looked quite the same player this season as when he was at his best at the start of last season. So if Sakho can come back, he's a bit more consistent for West Ham than the other two strikers. So if he's back for this one, that'd be a big boost for them.
Yeah, it was such a huge disappointment losing to Watford in that game, wasn't it? Because as you mentioned, the teams they've beaten away from home this season, they would have been pretty confident of getting the victory there, but still they're only 1 point behind the top four. It has been a fantastic start to the season, now down to 6th, but still only 5 off the leaders, so they're going very well. Bilic has done a fantastic job. He want to bounce back quickly, he'll need a response from his side. Not the easiest game to do it in fact they've got Everton and Tottenham in the next 2 matches, which should be a good tester for them over the next couple of weeks, because if they want to get into that group of European challengers, which they're probably capable of the way they've started the season, the team they've got, and considering they're going to the Olympic Stadium next season as well, that's what the club's hierarchy want. That's why they brought in Bilic, got rid of Allardyce. They want to make that next step up to the European levels. These next 2 games against Everton and Tottenham should be a good experience for them and should be a good test of where they're at as a team. They haven't won back-to-back matches at home since December last year, which is the big problem. They need to rectify that. We mentioned their away form, how good they've been on the road, but they need to sort out their home form. They did beat Chelsea in the last game, which obviously a big victory, but they need to back it up now with a victory against Everton, I think.
Yeah, it should be a good game, this one. Which way do you see it going?
Yeah, West Ham, their home form, as we mentioned, back-to-back wins they've struggled with, whereas Everton should be flying after that 6-2 Sunderland one. It's a really tough one to call, but I think I'm going to go for honours even, 2-2.
So yeah, I fancy a draw as well. I think it could be a bit tighter than that. I think West Ham maybe they didn't look quite as threatening last week, so I think maybe this one might be a bit more low scoring. I'm going to go 1-1. So both see this one finishing in a draw. Thanks for joining us.